When we go out on a Saturday night, you go to the closet and you pick out what dress you'd like to wear, right? And she used to say, yeah. And I would say, well, why can't I open the garage door and decide what car to drive? But it just didn't work. It didn't work. Hi, my name's Paul Henderson. I live in Georgetown, Ontario, Canada, with my wife Flo and my daughter Darian. And I have a wicked car addiction for sure.
Hey everybody, I will be giving away the car addiction window stickers to one lucky subscriber every month, so please hit the subscribe button right away.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I'm happily retired, both my wife and I. My career started in printing as an offset printer when I was actually 13 years old, and did that all of my life actually. We even owned our own business in Georgetown, which we sold about 10 years ago. I keep fairly busy with the car scene. I help a lot of friends with car things as well. And I care a lot about, there's a car show coming up in September called Cruising for a Cure. And it's all based on prostate cancer. And I had prostate cancer, 11 years free now. I wear the shirt all the time actually, because just think it gets the word out. And when people say that, well, I see you're a survivor, they ask questions. Sometimes questions leads to a guy doing something about it, so that's a good thing. And I know last year they, out of I think it was almost 200 guys tested. I think there was about 6 or 8 tested positive for prostate cancer, and it could have saved their lives. So it's the most treatable cancer there is if caught early. It has to be caught early. When I was I think back to about five years old, I just had this car model craze where I'd build car models all the time. And I always would change what the instructions said, or typical guy not even read the instructions, and make it my own way. And the car model I always built was what's sitting behind me here right now, is a 41 Willys coupe. But as time went on, I really seemed to get a big interest in auto racing. And my next door neighbor, where I grew up in Brampton, he raced at Pinecrest Speedway, and I remember looking through the fence. He'd be working on the car, and I couldn't get the nerve up to just go over, yet I knew him, but I don't know, I guess I just didn't want to be in his way. So I finally got up the nerve and went over, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and I just said, would it be okay if I sit in your car? And I remember him open arms saying, for sure. And I remember sitting in that car. It was like a modified stock car that raced at Pinecrest. And I'll never ever forget that day. And I always attribute that fella next door to maybe the craze being put into my head. I'm not sure. But, and it sort of, I think it wasn't so much hot rods when I was young. It was more race cars. I was always interested in racing. And I ended up, at a later age, I ended up doing it myself. I started at the age of 40, which is kind of old, but I thought if I didn't do it, I was never going to do it, and I'd be very sorry. So, my first car, I was well underage when I got it, but when I went to high school, every December, a bunch of us would take the month of December off and work at Cooksville at the post office delivering mail for the Christmas holidays. And that way it got me out of school for a month, and it gave me a little bit of spending money. So when I was on the route, I saw this beautiful little English car. It was a 1958 Austin A35. And I just fell in love with the car. And I knocked on the door and I asked them how much they wanted for it, and they said $35. And I bought it. And I had to get my father to come down and drive it home. And I was just in love with it. And I fixed it up, got it running, and ended up, when I became 16, I actually started driving it. And then I got this crazy idea. I got an old Hemi motor out of a Chrysler. And I got this crazy idea about building a chassis for this Austin and running a Hemi in it. And even in high school, my yearbook said that my dream was to own a Hemified Austin before I ever owned it. So, but anyways, I had that. I got it all apart, started building it, and unfortunately never ever completed it. So where it went and where it is today, I have no idea. Turned 16. I remember my take-home pay was $43 a week. And I bought a 1965 GTO, and the GTO was just, I think there was only 2 of them in Ontario because it was an import car. And the duties on that car made it about $2,000 more than what a Corvette would have cost back then. And a friend of mine's father had bought it brand new. He took ill and wanted to sell the car, and I ended up buying it. So that car was probably more exciting than the Austin. But anyways, I had it for about 2 years and then ended up selling it, and that was the story of that car. I had a 1923 Ford T-Bucket that I purchased. Did a few minor things to it, but it was a open wheel hot rod. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the T-Buckets. It just had a small block Ford in it, headers, 4-barrel, bit of a camshaft, and it was just a really fun car to drive. I had it for about maybe 4 years, and then a friend of mine in Brampton, he wanted to buy it, and he ended up buying it. I always loved 55 Chevys, and I had a really nice 55 Chev. And it was more of just a driver, but it was a very nice car. Spent a lot of time in it as well. I guess to just sort of show you how times have changed, I spend a bit of time up in Erin, and I was in at CarQuest one day, and a fellow walked in who I haven't seen probably since I was like 18 years old. And I said, "Gord, you don't remember me probably." And he said, "You're Paul, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you remember the day I went and test drove your 55 Chevrolet? I wanted to buy it." And this was a beautiful 55, a 2-door hardtop, small block with a 4-speed in it, just beautiful cruising car. I took it for a drive, and I said, "You remember when I come back what I said to you?" And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "I thought the $350 was just too much for that car." And we both laughed crazily about it, how the car scene's gone today. And, you know, as I talked earlier about at a young age, my favorite car was the Willys Coupe, and the 1941 Willys Coupe. And that was, I think I had said around the age of 5 years old that I built car models, and now I'm like 70 years old and I've got the real deal. And it took me all those years to do it, but it's definitely the most favorite ride I've ever had, and probably ever will have. And just to drive down the street and look through the front windshield really does put a smile on both my wife and my face. And it's a really good time. It is a thrill to drive. And a lot of times when we go out, we're going to come down to our street and come home. I'll just drive by and we'll say, "Where are you going?" And I say, "We can't go home yet. We got to keep driving." So, yeah, we've had a lot of fun, and probably that's the biggest enjoyment out of the car. I love going to the cruises. I love talking to people. I love seeing other people's cars. But I think the biggest thrill is just driving it and going for a cruise. I've loved the Corvettes. Probably mid-60s Corvette was my favorite, the Stingray. But I had a friend of mine who bought a 2006 Corvette Red, 6-speed tranny, T-roof, beautiful car. It only had 28,000 kilometers on it. And he more or less had bought it for an investment. I really wanted that car. But what's behind me I hadn't completed yet. And I guess being greedy, you sometimes want more than what you got. I kind of said to my wife one day, I tried to explain to her why a person would have two cars. And I said to her, when we go out on a Saturday night, you go to the closet and you pick out what dress you'd like to wear, right? And she used to say, yeah. And I would say, well, why can't I open the garage door and decide what car to drive? But it just didn't work. It didn't work. Like everybody's cars, I guess because of how they take you over. There's so many cars you see and you go, oh wow. And then you start, my mind goes, because I am a fabricator. That's what I do.
That's what he comes first.
I kind of miss not building now. And I do stuff for other guys. I help friends out. And that keeps me into the building loop, right? And I see so many cars and I just have a vision of
And he has that
put
with
my
everything.
touch on it, right?
Like it,
But my very first year of racing, I was a true rookie. I'd never raced before. And I won, actually there was 46 cars in the division that year. And I ended up 12th in the point standings, which for a rookie, that was pretty decent. And I won a lot of trophies. I won most sportsmanlike driver my first year, and won Rookie of the Year, and won the Bob Clint Award. Was an award, was probably the biggest award within the Canadian Vintage Modifieds. Was given to a person who conducted themselves good on the track, off the track, so anybody could possibly win it. And Bob Clint was a fellow who was killed in a car accident and was a racer in the division I raced in. So they had a memorial race for him. And later years of my career, we raced at Sunset Speedway. And one night, as a race car driver, you kind of knew when everything was working good, so the car could be working really well, but if the driver wasn't working really well, it didn't work. And this night at Sunset Speedway, it's just everything for me was working. Me, the car. I ended up winning the season-end championship, which was the championship for that night. It wasn't the full season championship. And I won the trophy dash. And then they had a memorial race that night for a family where the father had worked with my division, and it was a special race, the first one in honor of him. I won that, and I came home with eight trophies that night. And it's a night in racing I will never, ever forget. It was probably the highlight for sure. And then a funny moment, Kawartha Speedway near Peterborough, a beautiful racetrack, like one of the nicest I've ever raced on. it was another evening where both car and driver seemed to be working well. And I started fairly back in my qualifying race and ended up getting the lead. I come out of turn 4 and let off on the gas, and everybody started passing me, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? And then there was one lap left to go, and I thought it was over. Well, everybody razzed me so badly about that. They called a driver's meeting, and they said, we're going to have a flag session for Paul here and just show him what each color means, and everybody had a big laugh over that. So it's something I probably won't forget, and a few other guys won't either, but anyways, it was a good night. So probably the
Worst.
the worst possible thing that could happen. I don't know whether I kind of drove, I did drive cautiously, and in that sport you can't be too cautious. You have to be a little bit aggressive to get ahead too. And we were at the same track at sunset, and a good friend of mine was in front of me, and then I think I was running about 5th place, and the 2nd place car blew a motor going into the corner and laid oil down, a big massive oil. And I was working really hard on the fella in front of me, who's a good friend of mine, and I was just going to the outside to pass him, and I didn't see the oil, and I hit him. And we'd probably be doing maybe 110 miles an hour. Not a big track at sunset, but fast enough. And when I hit the oil, your human reaction is to get on the brakes. And the car actually felt like it picked up speed. And of course it happened so quickly that the 2nd place car went into the wall sideways. And I will never forget seeing his face as I drove in, or skidded in towards him, and I'm just thinking in my mind quickly, I hope I don't hit his driver's side. And fortunately, my car hit the left front wheel of his car, which was sandwiched into the wall, and my car went airborne, and the wall there was probably 5 to 6 feet tall, and my car roof was upside down above that wall, and it flipped about 2 times. And the fellow in front of me who I was trying to pass, he skidded in the oil but ended up not hitting anything. And actually his car stopped my car from flipping more times than what it did. And all I really remember is dead silence. There was no crowd noise, and I thought, am I dead? Is something wrong here? And I heard nothing. So then I noticed smoke, and I guess the oil coming out of the motor dripped on my headers, and with them being so hot, it looked like it was going to ignite. And the fella that my car got pinned against, all I heard is, buddy, Paul, are you okay? Are you okay? And I knew, okay, well, I must be all right. And I unhooked my belts. When I did, of course, I was upside down and sort of fell out of the seat and started to climb out the hole in the window. And actually, my right front wheel was in my windshield. And the frame, which would be normally straight, was 12 inches bent sideways. That's how much of an impact it was. And the tribute to the car was it folded up instead of my body taking it. And I had a small cut on my hand, that was it. And when I come out the hole of the car, I was worried about Flo, and my daughter would be just freaking out. And it was dead silence, and I looked, and my wife was standing at the fence, and we had a conversation. There's 3,000 people there, not talking, and her and I are having a talk. And I looked at her, and she said, are you okay? And I said, oh, yeah, I'm all right. And she said, should I go to your toolbox and get some underwear? And we all just started laughing. Everybody started laughing. And the ambulance driver climbed up on top of the car with me, and he was checking me out and asking if I'm okay. And my first question was, is my car all right? And he said, don't worry about the car. He said, we're worried about you. And he's put a light in my eyes to see if my eyes were dilated. And I said to him, what are you doing? And he said, just checking your eyes for see if they're dilated. And I said, oh, I'd be checking my underwear if I were you. And we both laughed, and he said, you're okay, and asked me what year it was, and that was it. And they actually had to put the car on the my trailer with 2 tow trucks. You couldn't even move it. So Monday morning, the fella that I hit against the wall, he phoned me and asked if I was okay, and I talked to him, and he said, have you looked at your car yet? I said, no. I think I got a concussion. I didn't see the car till Monday, or maybe Tuesday. And he said, well, when you do, he said, can you look for my distributor? And his distributor was actually in my oil pan. That's how hard it hit him. And I'm sure if it had hit him in the door, I hate to think what would have happened. I just don't know. When you built your chassis, you built different gauges. So I used different gauges of metal. So all your crash bars and everything were like 065, which would be like muffler pipe grade metal. And I used to build like 5 or 6 sets of them and just bolt on. And then the frame was of a certain steel gauge. 100 thou was the frame gauge. An impact such as the one I had, if that car was built in heavy steel, well, the heavier the car, the slower it is too. But, that was always my first thought. You'd be keeping it as light as you could within the rules. But it goes beyond that. It was for safety too. So if you hit the wall at a high speed and the car was really heavy steel built, your body's going to take the impact, not the car. So the whole idea was when you hit the wall, the lesser gauge metal would start to fold up. It hit so hard sometimes that where my shoulder harness was, when you took off your suit at night, it was just blood, not actual blood, but like bruising, where the straps actually were on your body. So I've driven since 16, and I have honestly never had a ticket. And what I used to do was on Saturday nights at the racetrack where they didn't hand out tickets. So I tried to keep it sensible on the street. And we were coming home one night from a cruise just on Guelph Street in Georgetown, and I happened to notice diagonally there was an unmarked cruiser heading the other way. And I always make a habit of just sort of waving cheekily, I guess, out the window. And as we went through the intersection, the cruiser pulled a quick U-turn behind us and went up so far and then flipped the lights on, and I thought, I'm not going to stop on the road, I'm just going to pull over up ahead into the CarQuest parking lot. Well, the cruiser pulled in behind us with the lights all going and what have you, and I thought, well, I haven't done anything wrong, so I wonder what's up. So anyways, the officer basically just wanted to see the car and have a picture with us, which we did, and that was, to be truthful, that was pretty damn cool. So anyways, it was a good laugh, pictures were taken, and they went on their way and on our way. And actually the biggest highlighted one is not even in this country. So my wife is English, and we try to get over there a bit. And they actually live, her sisters live in the south of England, and another sister lives very close to the Scottish border. And I decided I'm going to drive all the way up there, my wife and I, on our own. and I'd had very little experience at driving over there on the wrong side. So it is a road trip that I will never ever forget. And I remember us coming along the motorway to the first roundabout, and I actually froze because I just yelled to my wife, "Now what do I do?" and just slowed up. I didn't know what to do. And it all came back to me when I thought back in Canada, is talking about bloody foreigners driving over here. I thought, well, I'm one of them over there. When I bought the red GTO that I talked about, I worked in the printing trade as an apprentice, but I also pumped gas till 9, 10 o'clock at night at Texaco station in Brampton just to put gas in that car and help pay for it, actually. And as it progressed, when it comes to the racing days, I was very fortunate. With the printing business, I had lots of great customers in printing. I had over 400 actually. Never advertised. My wife and I ran the business by ourselves. I had no employees and didn't advertise, and just had a clientele that we dealt with all the time, and they actually became friends too. And probably 90% of the sponsors on my race car were printing customers. And my wife used to joke with me a lot and say, "Don't screw up a printing job because you don't want to lose a race sponsor." And those people were with me all the years, actually. And on a Monday when I come into work, if they didn't go to watch us race, I get a phone call. "How'd you make out Saturday night? How'd the car run?" And so it was a great experience. And what I would do is all the sponsor money given, I would give to Flo, and she would put it in an account like a business. And I would just say, "Well, I need a set of tires this week," or money for fuel, whatever we need. And that's how we kept the car going. And what's sitting behind me when I retired, I built the whole car myself. But the start of that car is I sold my race car, went to Michigan actually, and my trailer, and because my career was over. And that was a good start to start building this car. This car was a vision and a dream that came true for me. So I have another one too. And we joke about it, my wife and I, because at my age, if you add on the time it took to do what's behind me, it's probably not feasible to do what I'd want to do with the next car. But anyways, at a young age, a popular drag car back in the day, as well as these, was an Anglia, an English Anglia. And they have, they're just awesome. I love them, and I've always loved them. And with my wife being English, when we go to England, I'm always looking for one. And there's just something about them. They were a popular drag car back in the day, and you don't see a lot of them today as far as a street rod goes. They're like, I might want to call it a pro street car. That was sort of my idea in building this here. But the Anglia is just an amazing car, and if you ever go to the cruises and stuff, you don't see many of them. Whether they're, Flo and I had the discussion, are they just not as popular, or is muscle cars more popular? And as I said to her, it really doesn't matter what's popular. It's about your own taste. So, if I built another car, a Pro Street Anglia, it's for Paul, and it's Paul's vision. So, I guess, I don't guess, that would be the car I'd want to build. And I've already got it all on my mind what it would look like.